his actions led to the WBC decide something. And we did every single possible attempt to find a resolution and to avoid.
So damn, that was quick. The WBC have stripped Shakur Stevenson after historic victory versus Teofimo Lopez in Madison Square Garden, New York City, my city. Are they trying to get back at Bud Crawford, huh? Because Bud Crawford ain't pay that sanctioning fee, huh? And he trying to what, like take it out on Shakur.
The boxing world sits in total disbelief following Shakur Stevenson's shocking WBC lightweight title stripping, happening mere days after one of the most brutal, one-sided beatdowns in modern boxing history. In a scorching response setting the internet ablaze, Shakur absolutely torched the WBC, branding them thieves and exposing what he swears is the true motive behind snatching his belt. Only 4 days following Shakur Stevenson's complete annihilation of Teofimo Lopez at Madison Square Garden, crowning him a 4-division world champion, the WBC dropped a bombshell, stripping his lightweight title without warning or justification whatsoever. The suspicious timing behind this move has sparked massive controversy about whether backroom politics and cash ruled this decision more than the actual regulations the WBC pretends to enforce equally among all title holders. Yet, music. What Shakur unleashed in his blistering social media meltdown regarding the WBC's real demands from him has revealed something countless observers believe represents corruption at boxing's very core. But before we explore Shakur's devastating accusations targeting the WBC, we must understand precisely what transpired and why this explosive situation has the global boxing community split and arguing fiercely. On Wednesday, February 4th, only 4 days following Shakur's dominant clinic over Teofimo Lopez, the WBC dropped an official statement declaring they were vacating the lightweight title effective immediately.
Makes $50 million or around that. The WBC absolutely is not going to charge 3% of such an amount. We made a very clear 0.6%, which is...
The statement declared, in light of champion Stevenson now being the reigning WBO super lightweight world champion, and consistent with the WBC rules and regulations, the WBC has declared vacant its lightweight world title. The WBC attempted making this appear like standard regulation enforcement, celebrating Shakur for his achievements and wishing him ongoing success in future pursuits. Yet, sources within Shakur's inner circle instantly challenged this version, insisting the genuine reason behind the stripping had zero connection to regulations and complete connection to cash the WBC extorted. According to boxing insiders speaking under strict anonymity, the WBC had been squeezing Shakur's team for weeks, demanding sanctioning fees for the Lopez bout despite it never being a WBC championship fight.
They charge him a $100,000 fee for the WBC 135 title. I don't know where the rush came from, or if it's like a jealous, envious type of thing, but I wouldn't pay.
One individual familiar with the conversations allegedly confirmed the WBC demanded their share despite having zero involvement whatsoever in organizing or sanctioning the Teofimo showdown. It was absolute greed masked as rule implementation. This backstage pressure operation escalated in the days approaching the Lopez clash, with the WBC firing off numerous messages demanding payment according to various sources close to the matter. Shakur Stevenson's reaction to being stripped was completely nuclear, hitting social media platform X to thoroughly incinerate the WBC and expose what he insists truly occurred behind locked doors. Shakur unleashed a devastating tweet storm that has since exploded across the boxing universe, with his opening salvo reading 100,000 to some crooks who don't deserve it. Nah, Leilani, I rather give it to you, baby girl. He was referencing his daughter, Leilani, declaring emphatically that he'd sooner invest that cash on his family than surrender it to an organization he brands corrupt and worthless.
Thank you, or I'm sorry, taking a different route, no response. I wish him the best. But this is not. The WBC is huge, it's great, it's about greatness, and I'm relieved, to tell you the truth.
Yet, Shakur wasn't finished there, dropping even more incendiary allegations that have caused earthquakes throughout the boxing landscape and triggered serious scrutiny about WBC operations. In his follow-up tweet, Shakur declared, The WBC didn't even have do with this fight, and it's eating them alive. Take your belt, it don't make me. This message flawlessly summarizes Shakur's outrage with the whole circus, emphasizing that the WBC had absolute zero participation in organizing or sanctioning his battle with Lopez at Madison Square Garden. The clash was a WBO championship bout, meaning the WBC strap wasn't being contested, and they served no official function in creating the event happen or guaranteeing it satisfied their benchmarks. Numerous boxing authorities believe this represents the crucial detail that reveals what they consider the WBC's cash-grabbing schemes that have corrupted the organization for decades. According to detractors.
On Shakur Stevenson, I don't know. But look, that's not going to take away of the momentum of that victory that Shakur Stevenson had. Y'all already know he became a 4-division world champion, 2-division lineal champion. But to be honest, I'd rather have Shakur Stevenson in a 140-pound division. I think there's more.
Sports Illustrated senior writer Chris Mannix weighed in on the scandal with a tweet that Shakur instantly reposted, granting it his complete endorsement and alignment with the evaluation of the crisis. Mannix declared, the WBC handed out interim belts so Canelo didn't have to defend against David Benavidez. But yeah, strip Shakur Stevenson 7 months after he defended it against the #1 contender. Explain that, Mauricio Suleiman. This contrast illuminates what countless observers see as flagrant hypocrisy from the WBC shielding their biggest revenue generator Canelo Alvarez, while crushing a warrior like Shakur who lacks the same political leverage. The mention of Canelo and Benavidez addresses a contentious scenario where the WBC manufactured multiple interim championships to dodge forcing Canelo into a mandatory showdown that he refused. Fans on social media instantly started arguing whether the WBC applies its regulations fairly or whether they selectively choose who receives enforcement based on monetary and political factors.
Pay them people either. I'd rather keep my money to myself. Do the same thing Terrence Crawford did. It's other sanctioned bodies out there. It's other belts. It's never that serious. We know who the best is now. You see what he did to Teofimo Lopez. You've seen that shocking.
What the hell I'm giving y'all 100,000 right now for? Because y'all got beef with Bud. So come at me for it. This declaration references Shakur's prior payment to the WBC following his previous lightweight championship defense against William Zepeda in July 2025, which renders the latest demand seem particularly outrageous to countless spectators. Sources inside Shakur's camp verified that he'd satisfied all mandatory fees for his Zepeda defense, completing his financial responsibilities to the WBC as the sitting lightweight champion during that period. The charge that the WBC is attacking Shakur because of their vendetta with Terrence Crawford introduces a completely new volatile dimension to this scandal that has grabbed everyone in boxing paying obsessive attention. In early December 2025, merely 2 months preceding Shakur's ordeal, the WBC stripped Terrence Crawford of his super middleweight championship over what they insisted were outstanding sanctioning fees approaching approximately $300,000. $000,000. Crawford had demolished Canelo Alvarez in September 2025 to capture the undisputed super middleweight crown in one of the most stunning upsets and most magnificent performances in boxing lore that stunned the planet. Yet, according to the WBC, Crawford neglected to pay required sanctioning fees for both his Canelo bout and his preceding bout against Israel Madrimov in August 2024 despite repeated communications. President Mauricio Suleiman stated during their yearly convention in Bangkok that Crawford pocketed $50 million for the Canelo showdown, but declined to pay the discounted fee of 6%. Crawford's answer to being stripped was similarly incendiary and rebellious, blasting on social media, "What makes the WBC better than all the other sanctioning bodies? You can take belt." He highlighted that the WBO, IBF, and WBA all acknowledged his payment arrangement. But the WBC demanded more money than the other sanctioning organizations, which Crawford interpreted as unjust targeting.
Him $300,000 plus another $100K something for sanction fees, right? Then he gonna tell me I ain't even apologize? Like, who the fuck you think I am?
Shortly after being stripped by the WBC, Crawford proclaimed his retirement from boxing on December 16, 2025, walking away from the sport with nothing left to prove, according to his statement. The link between Crawford's stripping and Shakur's stripping just 2 months later is impossible to ignore, especially given their close personal and professional relationship as training partners and friends. Sources close to both fighters report that Crawford has been mentoring Shakur for years, with the two training together regularly and developing a bond that goes beyond just boxing skills and technique. One gym insider who requested anonymity reportedly stated, "The WBC knows that Bud and Shakur are tight. They couldn't break Bud, so now they're coming after his protege to send a message about who's really in control." This theory has gained significant traction on social media, with fans pointing out the suspicious timing and similarity between how both fighters were treated by the WBC despite their accomplishments.
$100,000 with $225,000 going to the Jose Sulaiman Boxers Fund, which is to help former fighters in need. And it is just regrettable, not even a...
Many boxing authorities believe the WBC is attempting to reclaim its dominance and control after Crawford publicly humiliated them by declaring their belt meaningless and retiring instead of surrendering their extorted fees. According to the WBC's own rules and regulations, when a champion holds titles in multiple weight classes, they must choose which title to keep within 15 days of winning the new belt. Rule 3.14.1 declares that the WBC may grant the champion 15 days to elect which title the champion will keep and which the champion will vacate according to their official documentation. Nevertheless, the WBC stripped Shakur after only 4 days, not even giving him the full 15-day period their own rules specify for making this decision about which title to maintain. This accelerated timeline has sparked additional controversy about whether the WBC was genuinely enforcing their regulations or simply punishing Shakur for refusing to pay what he views as an illegitimate demand for money.
Division. I think there's more attractive fights in the 140-pound division, because if you would have gone back to the lightweight division, Muay Thai would probably be the most intriguing matchup, and I don't know if...
Furthermore, Rule 7.3 declares that when a WBC champion competes in any bout where their WBC title is not at stake, they must pay the WBC 50% of the sanction fee. Sources estimate this 50% fee would have amounted to approximately $100,000 for the Lopez fight, which matches exactly what Shakur referenced in his explosive social media posts about the situation. The question many are asking is whether it's fair for the WBC to demand payment for a fight they had absolutely no involvement in organizing, promoting, or sanctioning in any official capacity. Critics argue this is essentially a protection racket where the WBC extorts money from champions under threat of stripping their titles if they don't pay up regardless of the circumstances. Defenders of the WBC system claim these fees help fund important charitable programs like the Jose Sulaiman Boxers Fund, which supports retired fighters who are struggling financially in their post-boxing lives.
Beautiful performance he pulled off. It's no reason to pay them people $100,000. You can go back and get that belt anytime you want to.
Nevertheless, skeptics emphasize that the WBC's finances are not transparent, and there's little public accounting of where these massive sanctioning fees actually go or how much reaches the charitable programs. The situation has reignited long-standing debates about the role and power of sanctioning bodies in boxing, with many calling for major reforms to protect fighters from what they view as exploitation. Former champion and current analyst Teddy Atlas weighed in during his podcast, saying, "These sanctioning bodies have too much power and not enough accountability. They're supposed to serve the sport, not enrich themselves off the fighters." Meanwhile, promoter Eddie Hearn commented on social media, "The WBC needs to be consistent with how they enforce rules. You can't protect some fighters and punish others based on who has the most political power and money."
Boy, you better slap your fucking self and paying your ass shit. Fuck you talking about pay you $300,000. What makes you so motherfucking better than any other sanctioned bodies? Huh? Answer that question. What makes you better than...
So, the World Boxing Council, better known as the WBC, decides that not even a week later, this is Wednesday, they decide that with Shakur's WBC lightweight title now officially vacant, the sanctioning body has announced that interim champion Jadier Herrera may be elevated to full champion status in the coming weeks. However, William Zepeda, who Shakur defeated convincingly in July 2025, remains the #1 ranked contender in the lightweight division, according to the WBC's official rankings released this month. Sources within the WBC reported that discussions are ongoing about whether to elevate Herrera or order a fight between him and Zepeda for the vacant title to crown a new champion. Shakur, meanwhile, has made it absolutely clear through his social media statements that he has zero interest in ever working with the WBC again, regardless of any future opportunities they might offer. One person close to Shakur's team reportedly shared, "Shakur is done with the WBC forever. He'll never fight for their belt again."
Yesterday.
Well, it's very unfortunate. The worst situation, the worst decision that the WBC could ever take is to withdraw recognition of a champion. And I am very sorry for Terrence's actions. His actions...
But here's the kicker. Shakur would rather unify with the other three sanctioning bodies and completely freeze out the WBC. Think about that for a second. He's willing to walk away from one of boxing's most prestigious belts just to make a point. This isn't just about principle. It could reshape Shakur's entire career trajectory. If he ever decides to drop back down to lightweight, that WBC title would normally be sitting there waiting for him, a key piece of the unification puzzle. But Shakur, he's burning that bridge. He's got his eyes locked on super lightweight, and potentially a massive showdown with Conor Benn at welterweight. Translation: lightweight might be dead to him forever.
So the World Boxing Council, better known as the WBC, decides that not even a week later, this is Wednesday, they decide that...
And the boxing world, it's absolutely split down the middle. On one side, you've got fans calling Shakur a hero. Finally, a fighter with the guts to stand up to the sanctioning bodies that have been bleeding fighters dry for decades. He's the guy who said, "Enough is enough," to what many see as legalized extortion. But flip the coin, and you'll hear a completely different story. Critics say, look, fair or not, those were the rules. Shakur knew what he was signing up for when he won that WBC belt. You can't just pick and choose which obligations you honor because you don't like them. But here's what nobody can argue with. The optics are absolutely terrible for the WBC. Stripping a champion 4 days after he puts on a career-defining performance? That doesn't look like enforcing rules. That looks like revenge. As one respected boxing journalist put it, stripping a champion 4 days after a dominant performance doesn't look like rule enforcement. It looks like punishment, and that's a problem for everyone involved in this sport.
First ballot Hall of Famer, undefeated 4-division world champion, former unified super featherweight, former Olympic silver medalist, who simultaneously, up until now, held the WBC 135-pound lightweight.
The fallout from this situation will likely continue for months with potential legal challenges, continued social media warfare, and ongoing debates about reforming sanctioning body practices and regulations in professional boxing. For now, Shakur Stevenson remains the WBO super lightweight champion and a 4-division world champion regardless of what the WBC does with their lightweight belt that he's made clear he doesn't need. And that's all for now. For the very best updates on news, moments, events, and actions in the world of boxing, stay by subscribing to our YouTube channel. And don't forget to turn on notifications to get notified when we drop quality contents like this. Until next time, peace.